I remember the high school classroom. I remember the faces of the students, more or less. Shouko Negishi. Nope. I mean, I can picture classmates I barely ever talked to, but her name doesn't connect to any face in my memory. It doesn't even sound familiar, not even a little. To be fair, I was an outcast. When anyone tried to talk to me suddenly, I'd freeze up from sheer surprise. They'd go red in the face, get angry, and leave. Which I always thought was unreasonable. If you suddenly speak to an outcast, of course we're going to freeze. We have no idea how to process the situation. Even with advance warning, I'd probably do the same, but the point stands. Anyway, social skills, 0. Classmate faces retained, most. Names attached to those faces, a smaller subset. Shouko Negishi, not in the subset. And yet this baby's appraisal results clearly display 2 names. The second one is absolutely Japanese. The N%I equals W skill is there, which is the universal marker of our little reincarnation club. So this baby is definitely one of my former classmates. It's like running into a fellow Japanese person while traveling abroad. The specific scenario where you feel vague solidarity with a total stranger, purely on the basis of shared national origin. That's approximately the level of warmth I feel. We weren't close. I don't even remember her face. I stare at the baby. The baby stares back. A lady is desperately trying to tell me something. I don't speak this world's language. If you want to communicate, learn Japanese first and try again. And even if I could speak back, my social skills are so catastrophic that we still wouldn't get anywhere. A baby in a staring contest with a spider. A mother trying to communicate with said spider. Guards standing around watching, too scared to move but too polite to run. I suddenly understand. This is a joke setup, a genuinely absurd one. A baby, her mom, and a bunch of nervous guards all staring at a spider. What kind of setup is this? I wish I knew the punchline. I don't know the punchline. I'm leaving. But before I leave, I've been spending time with my appraisal results, because this baby is genuinely confusing. The Progenitor title. Vampires who are born vampires rather than turned ones receive it. Cancels out all the classic vampire weaknesses. As I observe this baby, she is currently basking in direct sunlight without any apparent discomfort whatsoever. A vampire in sunlight, unbothered. The Progenitor title also comes with Undying Body, which gives resistance to basically every attribute, plus a once per day, survive with 1 HP emergency pass. 5 senses enhancement as a bonus. As a baby, I have immortality, which lets me survive any number of lethal attacks, so I win on paper. But I can't help noticing that Undying Body comes packaged inside a Progenitor title that this infant received at birth, while I had to nearly die 17 times to earn mine. The 75,000 skill points are what really breaks me. When I was born, I had 100. 100. This baby has 75,000. That's 750 times more. With 75,000 skill points, you could acquire anything interesting that caught your eye on day 1. I spent my entire early life grinding for skill points in a labyrinth full of things trying to eat me, and this child arrived in the world preloaded with enough to do basically anything she wants. Her reincarnation bonus skill appears to be Vampire itself, which is how she was born a vampire, despite having 2 human parents. D gave a human baby in a noble family a vampire as her species bonus. The resulting child will grow up as a bloodsucker in a household unprepared for one, presumably in a society that has complicated feelings about vampires, while D watches whatever unfolds and enjoys it. This has Schadenfreude written all over it. Damn you, D. I was reborn as a spider monster in the most dangerous labyrinth in the world. You reincarnated this girl into a wealthy family in a reasonably comfortable environment with 750 times my starting skill points and a complete suite of broken vampire titles. There is no justice. I, at least, got Skanda as my reincarnation bonus. She got vampire, both somewhat on brand for our respective situations. D picks the skills that will cause the most chaos. I respect the commitment while resenting everything about it. Anyway, the baby is staring at me. I'm staring at the baby. The mother is staring at both of us. The guards are staring at all 3. I can't take this anymore. I'm leaving. The town. I follow the road. Following major roads eventually leads to human settlements. This is a rule I have confirmed empirically. It's the dead of night. No streetlights. This world doesn't have them. Unlike Japan, which is visible from satellite imagery even in the middle of the night, as a string of lit islands. Settlements here go completely dark when the sun sets. People use fire for light, and it's expensive, so they go to bed early and stay there. It's not as dark as the Great Elro Labyrinth, at least. And this world has multiple moons, which I discovered on my first night outside and found unexpectedly moving, an otherworldly feeling that caught me completely off guard. Multiple moons. Tides must be complicated. The town is surrounded by walls on all sides, watchtowers at each corner. Soldiers patrolling the walls at night despite not being nocturnal, which I find impressive. Pulling into this town earlier this afternoon was the carriage with the baby vampire and her mother. And standing nearby watching that carriage arrive was a group of people with the specific quality of gaze that means intent to cause harm. My theory: they sent the robbers. The carriage was attacked just outside town. The family returns home. That night, men in black clothing slip toward the largest mansion in the center. They move like professionals. Stealth, concealment, silence, odorless, all of it. They pick locks. They slip past guards with effortlessly acrobatic movements that indicate significant practice. Expert, hired hands. Definitely not their first job. This is where my new technique makes its debut. Panoptic Vision evolved from clairvoyance. Where clairvoyance let me see things far away, Panoptic Vision lets me combine that range with appraisal and evil eye. I'm currently in the forest near the town. From here, with Panoptic Vision, I can see the mansion. And if I can see it, Jinx Evil Eye, which absorbs HP, MP, and SP from anything in my field of vision, can reach it. Evil Eyes affect anything I can see. They don't miss. There's no retaliation possible at this distance. I apply Jinx Evil Eye to the intruders. They collapse on the spot. No wounds, no sound, just cessation. All HP, MP, and SP drained instantly. I leave the mysterious bodies right where they are. As a message, someone is targeting this family. Here are your attackers. Please handle this. Remaining problem: whoever sent these people is still in a hideout in town. One of them has clairvoyance too, noticed the situation, and is now reporting via telepathy to someone above him. I catch fragments of the transmission through wisdom. I don't understand the language, but wisdom registers the channel, even if I can't decode the content. Stuck-up energy from the other end of the connection. This organization has branches outside of this town. Taking out these operatives will just bring reinforcements. So I leave them alive and stay watching. The robed man pulls back his hood. Long, pointed ears. An elf. My parallel minds respond in unison. An elf. Not curiosity. Something colder. Anger adjacent to hatred. I don't know where it comes from. These are my parallel minds, versions of me, theoretically, and they're reacting to the word elf with the emotional intensity of a grudge I don't consciously possess. Whatever it is, the vote is unanimous. We're staying here. The conspirators. Chief of the Elves. Potamus, the chief of the elves, received failure reports with perfect tranquility. The mass-produced elves that comprised his general workforce weren't expected to succeed reliably. They were cheap to produce, easy to replace, and factored into his calculations as acceptable losses. He never raised his voice when they failed. There was no point in treating throwaway materials as though their failure warranted emotional investment. His custom-made pieces were somewhat different, higher cost, marginally more useful, occasionally surprising. Oka, for instance. He hadn't anticipated she would turn out to be a reincarnation, a human from another world, born into this one with knowledge of the original. But that had proven enormously convenient. She had the student roster skill, a comprehensive record of her former classmates and their abilities. She was also, in her fundamental nature, devoted to her students, to their protection, to the belief that her efforts served them. All of that was exploitable. As long as he continued to protect the reincarnations as she requested, which cost him almost nothing, and continued to collect the knowledge her skill provided, she would cooperate. Even with slight suspicions, she would continue cooperating. Devotion to a cause was useful precisely because it made people predictable. He was having her dance, and she would continue dancing. The failure to kidnap the Keren girl, the reincarnated baby vampire, Sophia Keren, was a setback. 2 attempts, both foiled. The first by a spider monster, the second by circumstances connected to the same spider. Ariel. If Ariel was involved, This complicated things. And if Ariel knew, there was the additional risk that Dustin, the pontiff of the Word of God religion, also knew. Dustin operated in Sariella region, precisely where Karen County was situated. Both threats at once would require a combatant capable of managing Ariel's raw power while simultaneously outmaneuvering an institutional organization. His custom-made pieces couldn't handle that. He would go himself, and he would test the Gloria Type A model while he was there. Be sure to keep close watch on that spider, he instructed. Then, as an aside directed at no one specific, whoever you are, I shall deal with you directly. 2 days before the battle, the day before, the elf village stewards assigned to their group had provided their names with the phrase, "You don't need to know them." This remained, in Schlane's assessment, the most efficient summary of the elves' entire attitude toward guests. Hyrynx suggested scouting the barrier. Tagawa and Kushitani joined them. The only reincarnations with combat experience, they'd been sent over in what felt distinctly like a prisoner exchange. Tagawa was famous among adventurers. He and Kushitani were tracking toward rank S, an achievement that represented the top fraction of the profession. The katana at his belt was a magic sword, fashioned from a thunder dragon claw, capable of building and releasing lightning. His armor was dragon material throughout. Kushitani's staff, wind dragon bone, amplified her wind magic. "We didn't defeat them alone," Kushitani noted flatly. "We joined larger groups." "You still played a significant role," Katia told Tagawa, with a gracious smile that made him visibly uncomfortable, because hearing the person he knew as Kanata speak like a refined noblewoman was apparently more disorienting than combat. The barrier, when they reached it, was a transparent film stretching to every horizon, curving into a dome overhead. Tagawa tested it with his full-powered katana strike. The lightning lit up the area. The barrier was completely unmarked. "There's no way they're breaking this," Tagawa said. "They don't have to," Katia said. "They can enter through a teleport point." The elf stewards did not enjoy this observation. One of them pointed out that no mere humans would ever outsmart elves, which was precisely the kind of arrogance that Faye was about to physically address before Hyrynx put a hand on her shoulder. The strategy meeting the following day was more productive in identifying problems than solutions. The teleport points probably couldn't be disabled. Doing so required coordination from both ends, and the barrier's properties made restart difficult. Brainwashed elves were a possible threat, but there was no way to identify them. Sophia Keren was present in the enemy forces, and none of them could beat her, Faye included, and Faye had looked her in the eye and made that determination immediately. Kyoya Sasajima and Shinobu Kusama were both unaccounted for. "Kusama, I can't picture doing evil," Tagawa said. "That dork's too straightforward." "He'd help someone do errands without knowing what they were for," Faye said. Shino was always like that. Neither statement was reassuring. Katia, who had been brainwashed herself by Hugo, did not find the elves' complete dismissal of brainwashing as a threat amusing. She expressed this through the quality of her silence rather than words, which was somehow worse. Hyrynx's summary: their job was to protect the reincarnations in the village, and Hugo secondarily. Not to die for the elves, not to sacrifice themselves for an outcome they didn't control. Do what they could do, and retreat before it became what they couldn't. He'd watched Julius die. He'd watched the rest of the hero's party die. He was not watching Schlane do the same thing. Schlane agreed, and meant it, and also privately intended to fight Hugo. Hyrynx knew this, and moved on. The half-elf's half-life. The elf village had not changed. Anna's memories of her time here were fragmentary. Her subconscious did what it could to protect her from the worst of them, but the ideology was intact, because ideology survived deeper than memory. The elves' conviction that other races were inferior, that serving Potamus was the natural order, that half-breeds existed to absorb hatred. She remembered all of this without difficulty. She had been a doll here. The elves were Potamus's slaves. She had been below that. A living sandbag. They hadn't killed her because she was his property and couldn't be destroyed without his permission. When she was expelled, his decision, his whim, she wandered. She would have starved. She probably should have. A doll with no frame of reference for happiness can't easily recognize despair as unusual, and taking action to survive requires believing survival has some value. But a king of Annihilate had heard about a half-elf with unusual magical power and asked for her specifically, the first person who had ever wanted her. That was when her heart came into being, she thought, when she understood what it meant to be wanted rather than merely tolerated or owned. She had served that king, and when he died, he trusted her with his son, and she had served the family ever since. Her pride was the pride of someone who chose what they served, rather than being assigned to it. Hugo had taken that from her temporarily. Master Schlain said she wasn't to blame. She couldn't accept that, because accepting absolution without earning it was another form of running away. She would prove herself useful. She would protect him. She was aware that her magic, which had once been her primary value, was no longer impressive in the context of his companion's mana abilities. She was aware she was more liability than asset. She had come anyway. This was not loyalty to an oath. It was something she couldn't quite name that involved not being willing to step back from someone she cared about simply because the situation had become dangerous. The worm and the half-elf. Faye found Anna in a small clearing, surrounded by elves who were laughing. Anna's cheek was swollen. Faye grabbed the ringleader by the collar. She wanted to hit him. She had excellent reasons to hit him. She did not hit him because the two guards behind her had drawn their weapons, and losing the moral high ground over one satisfying punch was not worth it. Anna is our friend. That makes this my business. The negotiation was brisk. Faye had not substantially changed from her previous life in terms of approach. Apply pressure until someone caves, then release. Though the specific pressure applied was more physical than it used to be. The elf apologized, grudgingly, under duress. It counted. Walking back afterward, Faye thought about Hiro Wakaba. She thought about her a lot, in the way that guilt works, not constantly, but reliably, arriving without warning and settling in for a while. Faye had bullied Wakaba. The reasons were what they were. An upperclassman she liked had mentioned preferring Wakaba, and something in Faye had treated that as a declaration of war against someone she'd never spoken to. She'd spread rumors, hidden things, destroyed things, put a razor blade in her desk. Wakaba had looked at her with eyes that registered nothing, not fear, not hurt, not anger. Just a calm assessment that Faye didn't meet whatever threshold warranted a reaction. That look made it worse every time. Wakaba's scary, I had told her. Don't push her further. Himi agreed. All Faye's friends agreed. There was something genuinely odd about Wakaba's stillness in the face of it. Faye had kept going anyway, until she ran out of opportunities to escalate, and the energy behind it gradually exhausted itself. She'd understood, after she was reborn, what she'd done. Thinking through her past life while waiting in an egg has a clarifying effect on moral ambiguity. She'd made up her mind to find Wakaba and apologize. Then she'd learned that Wakaba was dead, which meant the apology was cancelled and the guilt was permanent. That was fair. That was proportionate. She accepted it. Standing in the elf village watching Anna straighten up and tell her thank you, Faye thought, Anna's right. Only a stupid child does something like that. She'd been an extremely stupid child. She hadn't said any of this out loud. Instead, she'd lectured the guard about how mature humans had moved past such childish behavior, which was the most hypocritical statement she'd made in either lifetime. The Battle of the Elf Village begins. They were waiting by the teleport point tree when it started. Kusama appeared through one of the points in a cloud of cheerful energy, looked at the elf spears pointed at him, and flickered, seeming to absorb the hits without actually being there. A classic ninja skill effect. Duplication jutsu. Create copies that vanish when struck. Switch places with them instantly. Something very close to short-range teleportation, and almost impossible to pin down. Schlain had to explain this to the elves who were trying very hard and getting nowhere. Oi, Shun! Kanata! Kunian! Shinohara! Kushitani! Sup! Kusama greeted everyone while being actively attacked by elf spears. He was reluctantly an enemy. He admitted this while looking extremely uncomfortable about it. He had clearly been sent here under orders he didn't fully understand with instructions he was already regretting. Damn it! This was supposed to be a quick job. Stupid Jiza. He threw the sword he was holding. Not at anyone. High and arching, landing in the center of the room. The appraisal told Schlain what it was. Everyone outside, now. The sword was a magic sword with a self-destruct effect. If you force all the power in a magic sword to release at once, the resulting explosion is proportional to the power contained. Thunder Dragon claw material. The kind of destructive force that does not negotiate. Hyrinx didn't wait. He grabbed Schlain and ran. They tumbled out of the tree. The explosion came a half-second later, tearing it up from the inside, roots and all. The elves who hadn't made it out in time did not make it out at all. Schlain wanted to use mercy, the resurrection skill he'd been carrying, the miracle that could bring back the dead within certain parameters. Hyrinx shut it down immediately. The bodies were ash. The skill had limits. And more fundamentally, the real battle hadn't begun. On cue, something happened in the air above the village. The barrier that had withstood centuries, that had held against Queen Taratex's, that Tagawa's full-powered Dragonslayer strike had failed to scratch, dissolved, like a soap bubble, like it had simply decided to stop existing. The killing intent radiating from outside the village perimeter would have been paralyzing at close range. At this distance, with the barrier gone, it was enough to make everyone pale. The Demon Lord was there. Kusama's parting words, right before he'd teleported out. You guys better run too. They hadn't been a threat. They'd been genuine advice. Breaking the teleport points wasn't about trapping the elves inside the barrier. It was the opposite, preventing anyone from escaping once the barrier came down. Faye! I know, look away. They turned their backs. Transformation sounds. Something that had been a young woman was now briefly something very large. I'm ready. They climbed. Faye launched them into the sky, heading toward what used to be the barrier's outer perimeter. The real battle was starting.